welcome back. Here with us on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Oil marketing companies have increased the price of diesel by 25 rupees per litre. Don't worry, this price hike has not happened for you and me. It has actually happened for bulk users. For example, state bus fleets, malls and airports, those who actually buy diesel in bulk, in large quantity, they will have to pay more. So in case you are planning to go out and get fuel, get diesel in your vehicle, the price is not really going to be different than what you were paying till yesterday. Now this hike, viewers, is in line with a 43% increase in international crude prices since January this year. This price of diesel sold to bulk users after the hike is 122 rupees and 5 paise per litre. In Mumbai, this was 95 rupees and 7 paise per litre earlier. So for you and me, the price of diesel for 1 litre will be 95 rupees and 7 paise. But for malls, Indian Railways, factories, etc., if they are going to buy diesel in bulk, they will have to pay 120 rupees and 5 paise per litre. Now in Delhi, diesel currently costs 86 rupees and 67 paise per litre for all of us at the petrol pump. But for bulk or industrial users, it is priced at 115 rupees per litre now. Now, despite the incessant increase in crude oil prices, retail pump prices have not really changed for normal consumers. High global crude oil prices bring about major concerns for India as the country imports 85% of its oil requirement. A transfer of the price hike to retail would impact the inflation, and not increasing retail prices will impact the financials of the oil marketing companies. So tonight we will try and understand from the experts as to what is the meaning of this price rise as far as diesel is concerned for bulk users. Will it impact us as well indirectly? That's going to be our focus of discussion on Urban Debate this evening. We have RS Sharma, former chairman at ONGC, joining us on the broadcast. Saugata Bhattacharya, chief economist, Axis Bank, also live with us on the broadcast this evening. Good evening to both of you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on Urban Debate. Mr. RS Sharma, I want to begin the discussion with you. Please help us understand what this decision really means, because we know that the oil marketing companies are itching to pass on the price hike to the consumers, but they are not doing it for reasons known to everyone in the country. But now they have increased the price of diesel for bulk consumers. What does this mean? Will this impact us eventually?
Yes, Heena, it will definitely impact, because that will immediately impact will come on the inflation. But as it is, I couldn't understand this ad hoc decision of 25 rupees litre increase if only in the diesel. Petrol price remains unchanged. So how these marketing companies will be managing that, and how whatever under recoveries they have suffered since last price revision that was done in first week of November 21, how that under recoveries these companies will be compensated, it is not known. And I'm more also concerned when it comes to the transparency governance aspect. What about the private sector refineries, petrol pumps like SR Rosneft? They have their petrol pumps. Reliance have their petrol pump. Probably both of them put together have about 3,000 pumps. So how they will be using, because all these bulk the buyers now they are queuing up at the petrol pumps. So there's an administrative problem, logistics problem. I wish the government would have come out with a statement, some clarity how they would be implementing this. We appreciate it's very difficult for the government to not to let the product prices rise when 85% of our crude oil is imported, and the companies, refinery companies, marketing companies, they can't keep suffering the losses. They have to be compensated. But the mechanism, how the under recoveries, what are the under recoveries, how they will be compensated, that is not clear. But one thing you asked me that is very clear, that this all commercial prices for this diesel having gone up. So that will have impact, definitely that will have impact on the inflation and overall the price rise in the country.
Okay, so Mr. Saugata Bhattacharya, eventually खरबूजा चाकू पर गिरे या फिर चाकू खरबूजे पर impact तो होना ही है. I asked Mr. RS Sharma, will it impact? He said yes, it will impact. So I want to ask you, what all will be impacted because of this hike in diesel prices for bulk consumers?
सब कुछ impact होगा. As you rightly pointed out, खरबूजा is probably the best analogy for the impact. As an economist, I'll just tell you, obviously you don't know the extent of the pass-through. We have all of us in the economist fraternity, the analyst community have been trying to figure this out, how much is the total consumer demand. But let me just tell you this, that you will be able to convey this to your readers, to your viewers much better. A 10% rise in petrol and diesel, which we know it's only 10, much more than 10. A 10% increase in petrol and diesel prices will lead to second order effects, indirect effects via transport costs, etc., by about 30 to 35 basis points. In other words, 0.35 percentage points over inflation. 10%. What you are telling me is about a 40% increase in the price of diesel. 40%. So that's a clear 1% rise in total inflation. With all the transport costs, it will get passed on to the haulage of vegetables, fruits in railways. And then again for bulk users, for the transport costs, for the bulk users of trucks, the wholesale truck companies, etc. So it's going to be a large cost. Plus, please remember, this is not just the petrol pumps. The costs of crude, Mr. Sharma sir knows this much better than I do. The total increase in the fuel component in CPI is also fairly large. So a 10% rise in the total crude prices, total crude. So whatever we import leads to about a 27 basis points, 0.27 percentage point increase. So the overall totality of this increase is relatively significant. It's not insignificant. So how long, over what period this gets passed on, we need to see. But the overall impact is relatively significant, is the bottom line.
Okay. Significant impact, especially via inflation, is what you're telling us that we will all have to be now ready for. So, Mr. RS Sharma, is it a camouflage as a direct hike would be visible and politically discomforting, and hence an indirect hike like this has happened because eventually it's going to impact us? I mean, nobody can really escape the situation wherein our transportation cost will not go up, our prices of daily needs will not go up.
Probably government is trying to insulate the consumer, those who go to the pump, those who drive the vehicles, the taxis, to the three-wheelers and two-wheelers. These people, to insulate them from this price increase, because otherwise price increase is imminent. The current prices, they relate to the crude oil prices of $81 per barrel. And today, again, there is a spike in the crude oil international prices. The Brent crude price has gone up to about 115 plus. So the difference in this, and Mr. Bhattacharya has very nicely explained that how much, that as an analysis, that how it will impact, how much price increase will happen, how much consumer price will have to be related to that. But it will be difficult for the government to, in the long run, to do this kind of ad hoc measures. So probably the better, I would feel, based on my own experience of that 3 decades and 2 decades after this deregulation happened, that it would be better if they come out with a mechanism And also, one thing very important, if the international prices have gone up, there need to be awareness need to be created with the consumers that they have to be ready, they have to be prepared for the price rise. So that's very vital because then we also have to see that people should have the tendency to conserve the actual consumption of fuel. It's not that वो घर के अंदर बिजली नहीं है तो चलो गाड़ी में हम आइसक्रीम खाने चलते हैं. Those kind of tendencies have to be contained. Only the essential movements have to be done. So that kind of awareness has to be created.
So eventually consumers will be paying more, not directly and visibly, but indirectly and invisibly. That cost is going to be there for all of us. Mr. Saugata Bhattacharya, is it an economic move dressed to reduce political discomfort?
Look, Hina, it's probably you're right that trying to cushion the blow, the direct blow to the users of petrol, diesel, and other fuels. But unfortunately, this is the nature of macroeconomics. So what the consumers will not pay in pump prices, because the government has to absorb a larger subsidy from in keeping the prices low. It will get lower dividends from the oil marketing companies. So the important thing to note is that their gap, the fiscal deficit, the gap that they have will go up in very simple terms. It's much more complicated than that. In simple terms, the fiscal deficit will go up, the need for market borrowings will go up, hence interest that they will need to pay, the interest rate they will need to pay will go up. That will drive all other interest rates. So all of us who are taking loans for mortgages, for automobiles, for personal loans, etc., those rates will go up. So, this is the nature of macroeconomics. So it's either the price of commodities that go up or the interest rate, which is another price for the loans that we go up. And so one way or the other, the macroeconomics will turn adverse. So that's something that we need to realize. And Mr. Sharma sir is completely right that the best way to deal with this is probably to let the prices go up so that fuel is conserved. So otherwise, the need to import fuel from outside, because if consumers keep on consuming fuel, the need to import fuel will remain very high.
Right.
Our current account deficit, the amount of petrol that we import will increase. Our exchange rates will go up. That will feed in another source of inflation, the imported inflation back into the country. So ideally, the best situation at this point in time, exactly as Mr. Sharma said, is to get consumers to conserve fuel.
Last question, Mr. Sharma, before I end this debate. So during the election season, there was a freeze on prices of petrol and diesel because of elections. We know that it was politically very, very important for the government. Now, after the elections are over, government has found a way to help the oil marketing companies so that they manage to improve their profits, improve their balance sheet. What about the consumers? What about the people?
Well, Hina, unfortunately, what I said, there's no alternative. Thing is, to what extent government will do this, the fiscal deficit, to what extent they will bear. There's one statement, poverty has to be shared. In this case, the poverty arises because of the international rise in the prices. So I feel something the government has to reduce some of the excise duties, at least bring to the level of pre-COVID when there was a steep increase was done in the excise duties. Then oil marketing companies, they are today's, let me tell you, these companies are having very handsome refinery margins. So they need to cut their share of profits there. Consumer has to bear the burden. Demand side management is very vital. So demand
consumer has to bear the burden. Very quickly, Mr. Bhattacharya, if I could come to you, how severe will be the impact if in just one statement you could sum it up for our viewers?
No, so the impact is large. There is no doubt about that. So I as Mr. Sharma said, how you distribute the costs of the impact of global high crude prices between the OMCs, between the government, between end consumers
Right.
is the actual policy choice.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhattacharya and Mr. Sharma, for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening.